Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, or welcome back to Getting Over versus Being Put Over. I am your host, and let's get right into it. Let's see here. Excuse me, by the way, I haven't recorded anything in a couple of days, so this might be a little bit shaky. But isn't it always shaky? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you guys about wrestling media, right? And those who report on it, and how you've had wrestlers over the years have their grievances with the people who report wrestling, who report stories, who report how matches go, to kind of just talk about the business and how people interact with that business and how the business actually works, right? And over the years, the people who sensationalize some of the darker aspects of wrestling or dramatize the aspects of wrestling or certain events in wrestling, I should say, or sports entertainment, however you want to word it, has been into an all-time high. On top of the fact that in recent years, you've had a lot of wrestlers or former wrestlers or whatever the case may be come out with their own podcasts, doing shoot interviews and podcasts of their own, talking about their side of the story, and you've heard this, but hear this, and so on and so forth. And a lot of writers and wrestling journalists and so on and so forth, even online personalities, have taken a lot of shit over the stuff that they have reported on or the stuff that they've said, either because it wasn't factually, they were either being dishonest, it wasn't factually accurate, or they interjected their opinion with the truth to form and to form and compile into this thing that completely becomes separate from what the actual events were, just for sensationalism, for clicks on ads, or some type of revenue of sort. Well, over the years, people like Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter has taken shit. Actually, it's fair to say he's taken it probably throughout his career, for numerous reasons, to be honest. He's been put into some ugly situations with the WWE, as you know, as you may or may not know. He used to actually report for them for a certain period of time. He was keeping up what was going on in Japan. He was asked to squash stories, stuff like that. Allegedly, he only did it once, and then after that, he turned it down. But from an ethics standpoint, if you'll do it once, you might do it again. Make of that what you will. He's been asked to do some dirty shit before he ended up leaving and then branching out on his own. Like, legit branching out on his own, I should say. But over the years, though, too, people have caught him with certain discrepancies, saying that you misreported on this, or you didn't get this event right, or you're stretching the truth on this. And it's been an ongoing issue. Now, do most of these people, or even any of these people, do it to be blatant? I don't know. There have been certain wrestlers who have been in shoot interviews who have been caught blatantly in lies for various stuff. From what I've seen so far, nothing too serious. Some of it just came across as being stupid, or they wanted to make themselves seem a little more than what they were. I mean, it is what it is. Embellishment is just a veiled attempt to make yourself seem more important than you really were. But in other cases, it's been rather brutal as it pertains to the Montreal Screwjob and what are the real comings and goings with that. And over the years, people's stories aren't really matching up too good. Hence the reason why people still have the debate whether it's a work or a shoot, or a combination of the two, and so on and so forth. And all kinds of crazy theories have come about because of that. Now, in my experiences with the Wrestling Observer newsletter, you can take what he says there and backtrack it to shoot interviews or to any type of written wrestling media on that particular subject, and for the most part it matches up. He may even have a little bit more that you didn't know about, but it fits in to the events at hand, whether because that's how it actually happened or because he's just Dave Meltzer is just a very good writer, whatever the case may be. But there have been plenty of criticisms. We're going to go over a video that talks about that right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Dave Meltzer oh, sorry. My bad. Not that one. Jim Cornette and Brian Lass debate the wrestling media with Bruce Prichard. This was published on let's see, March 27th of 2017. Now, another thing that I hope to do in ongoing videos coming up is going over, sadly, the disintegration of the friendship between Dave Meltzer and Jim Cornette. And that comes from a couple of different angles, I think. I'll just give you my opinion as I see it, but there are a bunch of videos out. I'd say I have at least 7 from various times over the last like 3 years. So that's something to talk about too, and so on and so forth. But even then, even with, sadly, with him and Dave Meltzer's friendship dissolving and so on and so forth, and them not speaking to each other, whatever the case may be, Jim Cornette has always come out and said that he will never call Dave a liar. You know what I mean? He may not like his taste in wrestling. He may not like who he's trying to put over. He may not like the events or the organizations that he glorifies, but he'll never call him a liar. So keep that in mind as we get ready to go into this, which will lead into the general understanding on why Jim and Brian defend Dave as much as they do. All right? So let's go ahead and get into the situation at hand. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Getting Over versus Being Put Over. I'll see you guys in just a second. It was kind of smooth, you know what I'm saying? I did all right there. It was okay. It wasn't great, but it was all right.
I got one I'd like to discuss with you, Bruce, and it's something that's been controversial, something that I heard from a lot of people about, and it's something I do disagree with you with. Let me say that just to be fair, going into this, but you have a view, and correct me where I'm wrong, because you name-checked on your show. I went back and listened to it after I heard from enough people, Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller and Bruce Mitchell and Mike Johnson and several others. Your view seems to be something along the lines of the wrestling media doesn't have any merit. Is that correct?
I said they don't have any credibility.
Why don't they have any credibility?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because
okay, before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Jim Cornette and Brian Lass debating the wrestling media with Bruce Prichard. This is from March 27th of 2017. The link to all the videos that I use will be down in the description. Hopefully you will please check them out and support them. Now, some of the writers that Brian Lass has named out are some of the writers who have broken some really great stories over the years, whether they were stories of old and or some recent stuff, mainly the older stuff, the stuff that actually really matters. Because let's be honest, some of the newer stuff these days don't mean shit, to be honest. Not the way they used to, and that's because the way people interact with wrestling and or sports entertainment is different. It's a lot different. Like, for example, eventually we're going to go over Wrestling with Shadows. You guys all know what that is. That's the Bret Hart. That was the Bret Hart story. And over Montreal. And if you listen to some of the people in the audience, or some of the people in the video, some of the fans, right? And the way they describe what wrestling is to them and the meaning that it has and so on and so forth. As much as it's supposed to be an escape, it's something like you embracing yourself into sports or something along those lines, or even something outside of sports that you can kind of just, tune yourself off, go ahead and, as one person described, a male sitcom that you can sit there and enjoy and make of what you will, even though back in those days, at least from what I've read, the female fan base was huge. Wasn't obviously as big as the male fan base, but still pretty large. Just like the demographic who watches Dragon Ball Z, the female demographic is actually a lot larger than you might actually imagine. We'll talk about that another day. In any case, when you hear these people describe what it is and what it is to them and why they're so committed and how creative was able to interject certain situations, like Bret Hart turning his back on America and boasting his home country of Canada, and then him talking about the values that Canada had and how it was relatable. Even though the Canadian crowd was still on his side, you had more and more Americans that were on his side too. You know what I mean? Like, you had people who were like, I understand what he's saying, and I have an appreciation for that. And it's crazy to me that these people who cheered him only a week or two ago now hate him. Like they forgot everything he did for them, and they immediately turned their back on him. And now they want to see, I think it was The Undertaker at the time was the match they were leading to, just see him be destroyed, and so on and so forth. He didn't ask for this. This was the situation he was put in. When you hear some of the fans just talk about it, it was interesting to listen to. You know what I'm saying? It was very interesting to listen to, and it's very interesting to kind of take all of that in. You get a chance to go to some of the old wrestling forums, or if you can see the archives of some of that stuff, you can see the same type of passion there too, whether you were for Brett or against Brett, and so on and so forth. There's a bunch of great arguments being made, and there's a lot of people who took this pastime, I guess you could say, a little bit more seriously than you would expect. But that's what brought people to the live shows. That's what sold tickets. That's what sold pay-per-views. I think that type of dedication to take it to in the personal investments in the performers themselves doesn't exist anymore. At the end of the day, it just doesn't. I think even if you try to connect with someone, with a particular wrestler for any period of time, eventually it's lost upon you because they just don't hold your interest, because they just don't do enough in the amount of time that's given. And I think that right there is one of the overarching things that hurts the business, and will need to lead to like a scorch and burn of some type. A scorch and burn, sorry. Eventually. It's just going to happen. You know what I mean? And that's what happens when you have too much talent. That's what happens when you fucking suffocate the competition to the point where it's just me and you got to deal with what I'm putting out, or you just don't watch it at all. I mean, Jesus Christ, there are people out there who even say that they kind of watch it now just because they want to see the train wreck. They want to see it all fall apart. And a lot of people even say, as of recent, that they just kind of want to see Vince fall. They want to see him finally get his up and comings for the situation that he put allegedly all of us in. It's an interesting way of looking at the situation, and at the circumstances that led to that situation. But we'll talk about that more when we get there. But I think there's a lot of great writers out there who take a lot of heat for no reason. There's certainly been some great YouTubers who have taken a lot of heat over some of the stuff that they said, which is all opinion. At the end of the day, none of us, well, most of us, I should say, aren't wrestlers. So who the hell am I going to say about anything? But if you've really absorbed this and you've heard some of these guys shoot interviews about the bumps that they took, and some of the botches and the spots and so on and so forth, you can understand through them on how much of that was an act and they're trying to sell, and how much of that shit really hurt. And that, as the consumer, you put your money down, or you've devoted any type of time to this, you have a right to criticize it. You have a right to criticize it. And at the end of the day, if you don't like it, you don't like it. You know what I mean? A wrestler shouldn't take any offense to that, I don't think, because at the end of the day, they can only do what they're told. Very few wrestlers can go out there and actually do what they want and make shit happen. It's very rare now. You know what I mean? Everybody's supposed to fit into this template, and either you do it, or we'll put somebody else in your spot. Whether they can talk as good as you, or they can perform as good as you, or they can sell as good as you, or they can just get over. You'll just be replaced. And that's kind of one of the bigger shames of it all. But to say that all of the wrestling media, or median, if you will, have no credibility is harsh. I think it's harsh, and I think it's a bit unfair, but it's certainly dismissive, because do you read everything that's put out there? You know what I'm saying? Have you heard every little thing, or did you only hear the big stuff that was brought across your table? You know what I'm saying? Or came across your feed on Twitter or on YouTube, respectfully, or whatever the case may be. You know? And Bruce doesn't exactly have the best reputation. No one has ever come out and said, from what I've heard, that he's a horrible person. Not the case. It's kind of hard to shit on other people's credibility when people spend a lot of time shitting on your credibility to some extent as well. You know what I mean? But we'll talk about that more when we get through, as we get on with this. Let's go.
I use examples specifically where in the past, and this is when I worked at WWE and TNA and different places, when you are there and And by the way, I didn't bring those guys up until they started attacking me. And I don't read their stuff. It was all brought to me. So I will preface everything that no different than them, I got all my stuff secondhand as well. So, because I won't read. They don't have any credibility with me. When I sit there and I used to prepare the tax statements and the gates, and I would see exactly how many tickets were sold, how many were comps, what the gate was, what the taxes were, and then you would read in the Observer, and it would have, well, this is what it actually was, and I would sit there and just kind of like, well, okay, and people would take that as fact because our records weren't public. And I'm sitting there going, well, if that's what the gate really is, why the hell are we paying taxes on much more? Why are we getting a computer printout from the arenas where we are conducting live events that say that we did this many ticket sales, we get a check for this many ticket sales, and we pay taxes for this? So when his stuff is based on hearsay, and you're coming from a point of, I was there, I did see the real numbers, I did see the taxes paid, I did see all of that. Everything else that they say lacks credibility. When you are sitting there and you come up with an idea for TV or booking or what have you, and something comes out in the Observer and they're wrong. They're completely 100% wrong. And it goes a different way. They say, well, they changed their mind because it was printed here. And it's just the illusion that everything that comes out of there that is printed is actually factual. And they have no credibility from just simply from that viewpoint of knowing, having been there, and it's like, well, no, that didn't happen. In Brett's book, he says that his contract was this. Corny, you were there when we dealt with all that Montreal stuff, and how many phone calls did I remember when we used to have to go in the other room, and I would have to get on the other line to witness the phone calls and stuff.
Well, hold on. Let me back up a second to what you said a minute ago, because I want to jump in the middle.
Okay, so the fact that the fact that he can give a first-hand account on some of the situations as it pertains to what happened with the gate, how much money they actually made from the events, taxes, and so on and so forth, fair enough. You know what I'm saying? I guess depending on where he's at, because I don't remember what Bruce Prichard's position was in WWE/WWF. Obviously, he was on the creative team, but he did other stuff too. They all did. They all did a bunch of other multitasking stuff. So how much of that stuff he was actually privy to, I couldn't tell you. I'll just say that much. I couldn't tell you. But, you know, at the end of the day, he was there and I wasn't. It is what it is. But if Dave is talking to other people who also saw some of those numbers, right, either before or after the fact, right, because let's be honest, every business fudges numbers and shit. Vince is known for that shit, especially once the company went public. He's alleged to have fudged a shitload of numbers to keep things afloat with the investors and so on and so forth. How much has Bruce actually seen? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what you know, right? That's what Bruce is known for saying. You know what you know. Here's my question. How much do you really know? Even though you're there, like, how much of all did you really sit there and you went through all those financial documents and you can go ahead and tell me word for word, number by number, all of those numbers that happen? You can tell me what you made at the gate. You can tell me what you guys spent on the pay-per-view. You can tell me exactly how much you paid all the wrestlers. You got all that. It's not like the ledgers that back in the territories and whatnot. Those numbers can, I'm not trying to be completely an asshole about it, but numbers can switch up really, really fast. The document that you saw here may be different over here. And even over the smallest of discrepancies, you really think that's enough to write somebody off completely? Doesn't that seem a bit harsh? And then more importantly, you said that these people have no credibility. You don't read any of their stuff or you don't engage with any of it. Everything that you had was secondhand. So how much credibility, how can I trust you to evaluate the credibility of a group of people when you don't actually read it? Or you don't actually engage with it? And you seem very, very adamant that you don't. And like you said, all your information is secondhand, as Dave and other writers have gotten their stuff secondhand. So is it not possible that what was said and that was presented to you could have been wrong or has slight discrepancies? Should I base the opinion you're giving now as not factual and write off any credibility that you may have or may not have, but that any credibility that you may have because you got everything secondhand and there was something wrong in there? Either what was given to you was wrong or had discrepancies, or how you interpreted it had credibility, had issues and or discrepancies. Like, that just seems a bit unfair, and especially since you're not getting firsthand accounts. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what's been presented to us just in the first couple minutes of this, all of this is essentially secondhand. No one's actually gone to the source. Bruce won't go to the source because he doesn't want to entertain these people. People like Dave Meltzer and all these other guys, they either were able to talk directly to the wrestlers or people close to the wrestlers or people who were in the office at the time who are no longer there, who may or may not have an axe to grind, or, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So take all of that into account as we're moving forward on this. We got a bunch of people standing around who may or may not have all of the facts. So is it really fair to shit on everybody's level of credibility when we don't even have all the information? And even if you do have a first-hand account, stuff happens. Stuff changes. I've watched interviews with Jim Cornette, or even with certain wrestlers who they said, "Oh yeah, I was from this year to this year, you know what I'm saying, I was cool with this person, so on and so forth." You go and watch that person's interview, yeah, I was cool with that dude and whatever, but I had these issues here, and I had this issues here, and these people had this problem with this dude, and I had to cover shit, and I never told them. And then once you put all those interviews together, they're like, holy shit, I didn't know none of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not as open. Like, no one knows everything. You know what I mean? Under reasonable circumstances. So, I don't know. And Vince has always had this thing, well, even when he gave Dave Meltzer, like, almost unlimited access to everything, and that's something that's been admitted, even then, the WWF/WWE is very good about controlling information, like anybody else to some extent. I'd say Vince is better at it than almost anybody, but leaks happen. That's why, who was that guy who was, that account, I should say, that was leaking, like pay-per-view, they were leaking, like, pay-per-view results before anything else. So when people were betting on it, it was pretty much a sure bet to take this person's information and going with it. And no one ever found out who that was. Was it Dolphin Fan? Something or other. My apologies. But like, there was people on Twitter, you go back and look, depending on the person you have to go back and find the account, who said they made crazy money off of his predictions. Crazy money. And they never found out who that person was. And more than likely it was an inside person. You know? They just never found out who the person was. You know what I mean? One of the wrestling channels, one of the big wrestling channels, I should say, on YouTube have done a report on that. So, just something to think about.
You two guys and go down the 50-yard line, because I agree with you about Wade Keller and Bruce Mitchell. They're line sacks of shit. I wish they'd die horrible deaths in front of their families, and I would never believe a word they said. I'd rather believe Paul Heyman as Mother Teresa than anything that Wade Keller or Bruce Mitchell.
You're just a Southern Paul Heyman, and he's a sophisticated Jim Cornette.
Mike Johnson, I think, does a fantastic job, especially since Mike's only been around the last 10 or 15 years, and we're not talking about him in the 90s at this point. Mike, bends over backwards to be fair, to be honest, and to correct any mistakes he makes. And so I have nothing but good things to say about Mike Johnson and my interactions with him. And as far as Dave, to be quite honest,
they deal in rumor and innuendo.
Rumor and innuendo. No, they deal in facts. If you read their
No, they don't.
They report, Bruce.
They report.
They report what they were told by someone.
Wait,
but what if they're told by
Wait a minute, both of you. It's my show. I'm not finished yet. I've motherfucked Keller and Mitchell. I'm going to put Mike Johnson over, and I'm going to say that I've been reading The Observer for 30 years. And while I do not agree with a lot of Dave's opinions, and he does love that flippy-do shit and PWG and all that other.
Oh, Jim's great. Jim's fucking hilarious. But on top of that, though, some of the stuff that was in the Wrestling Observer, allegedly, was actually given to Dave Meltzer by Jim Cornette. And he knew. Like, Jim Cornette was there, and he knew people that were there. He knew people who wouldn't lie to him and tell him about the situation, which only adds to the credibility, to some extent. But make of that what you will.
Stuff. stuff. I don't agree with all of his opinions, or even the majority of them. Perhaps this relates to modern wrestling. I have never known Dave Meltzer to write an inaccurate something that he did not either correct or modify later on when apprised of the fact that he had written something that was incorrect, if he was told of that. I've got to say that right now. I don't agree with a lot of many of his opinions about modern wrestling. Most of his opinions about old wrestling I do agree with, but he never put anything in the Observer that he was later told, and I know for a fact Keller has done this, that he was later told was inaccurate and didn't print a retraction or a correction. I got to say that.
And Bruce, on this topic...
Okay, I'm just telling you he's printed a lot of false stuff, and I don't know that anyone ever challenged him till now.
On the numbers...
The difference?
On the numbers, though, on the actual attendance, because that's the specific example you brought up here, Dave had access. Vince McMahon gave him access to the numbers. Dave also...
No, he said Vince McMahon gave him access prior to 2002, is what he said.
And what numbers are you disputing? Are you disputing... Here's what I'm disputing. When he put out 3 different numbers as this is the real gate of this past WrestleMania that was held in Texas Stadium or AT&T Stadium, what have you, that he put out 3 different, these are the real attendance number. I think the first one was like 70,000, then it was something else, and this is how many people were actually there. There weren't 100,000 people in the building. And my point was that here WWE was putting out press releases to their investors and to different people with 100,000 attendance in there. And I'm like,
but that's bullshit.
So the building
100,000 fucking people there.
Well, so the building's lying. So the building, the actual arena that the show is in, is lying.
We're talking apples and pomegranates. And when you're talking about attendance, there probably were 100,000. But then you're accusing when you're saying that, hey, there weren't 100,000 people there. And then go to the SEC if that's what you really think, and say that they're
so
lying.
We're talking about attendance now. If any of you guys who have followed any of the numbers, like if you guys like going back and looking at some of the older stuff, if you've heard enough of these interviews, I'm sure you've heard it. They have a certain amount of I don't know if I'd call them vouchers, or maybe like accredited tickets. I'm not sure what the proper term is for that. My apologies. But there's a certain amount of tickets that are reserved. Right? And the number could be huge. And I'm talking about, they don't just do this for pay-per-views or even for something like WrestleMania. They do it for live shows as well. A lot of the times for live shows, they'll do it just so they can fucking fill the arena. But they do have a number of credited tickets, I guess, that they give out, or vouchers, if you will, or shit that they reserve, maybe for wrestlers' families and so on and so forth. Those aren't tickets that aren't paid for. Those are just tickets that have already set aside. So are we debating that there was 100,000 people in attendance that actually showed up physically to come into the arena to watch WrestleMania? Or are we talking about 100,000 people paying customers, paying attendees? What is the discrepancy? Is that it has to be one of those two. And if he was to say, not that Bruce has said that, but if he was saying, oh, there was 100,000 people paying, attendees, then that would more often than not be that'd be a lie. That wouldn't be true. You know what I mean? Because it's known. It's known that they give away X amount of tickets. Those tickets aren't paid for. They're just given away. So now, if he's talking 100,000 people who came through the gates, or who are actually attending the event, then that's something completely in itself. But does that even really matter? Who gives a damn if 100,000 people showed up? Who gives a shit? People, at the end of the day, the money is what matters. You know what I'm saying? People fudge numbers and shit for attendance all the time. So who gives a shit? So I would assume the numbers is what really matters in this. But let's see as the conversation goes on.
To their investors, it's against the law. They would lose everything on that. And my point is that he wants to knock down.
Wait a minute. It's not lying to the investors unless you report a wrong money figure. They don't care how many people's there. It's like the boys used to be. We don't care how many people's in the house. We just want to know the money.
Well, I don't care what Meltzer says, and I don't, because there's nothing. Again, it's like once you realize that you go back and you say, all this isn't true, and you know that that isn't true, then anything else they say has to be taken with a grain of salt.
But do you think
that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It has no credibility with me. That's all. I think Dave's a nice guy. He thinks I'm a loser and a con man. I always thought Dave was a nice guy. I never had anything bad to say about Dave. I have said that when he gets his information from people, from sources he doesn't want.
That's interesting on 2 points. So he says that he doesn't think Dave has any credibility, but he likes Dave. He thinks he's a nice guy. But he says that Dave has either said or Dave thinks that he's a loser and a con man. But doesn't Bruce Prichard say the same thing about Jerry Jarrett? Saying that he was a loser and a con man, and he was surprised that he was able to draw a dime? Another subject for another day. The second part is when Vince McMahon took over, or was taking over, I think it was Houston, that was over there with Paul Boss and his son, and his nephew, whoever that was working with him or whatever. And they asked, and once Vince had taken them over, essentially, and Bruce was doing the show, basically. He was the one that was doing TV. And he went up there and he showed them what the lineup is. And he's like, why are you guys showing the same show 3 or 4, or, multiple weeks in a row? And he's like, oh, well, Paul, that's what Paul wanted, so that's what Paul did. And he's like, but I thought you were in charge of television. And he's like, I was, but then Paul took it back. And then when Bruce ended up coming back to Houston, Paul and his nephew and most of the people in the Houston office were like, oh wow, you went up there and buried us to Vince. And he said, I didn't bury you guys. I told Vince the truth. I told him what he wanted to know. It's all here. Eventually they were going to find out. And that's one of the things that's been following Bruce Prichard pretty much since then. So not his entire career at least, but for the most part, that Bruce will bury you any chance that he gets, allegedly. So yet again, doesn't that take away credibility from you under those terms, especially if multiple people say it? We're moving past personal opinion now, and now talking about people who have come out publicly and have said things like this. So do I go ahead and discredit them because I've heard your side of the story? What happens then? I'm just throwing it out there.
Name. He's usually getting information from people who want to talk to him and who want to get their story out and their side out. Since they're the only ones talking to him and giving him information, that's what he prints.
That's reporting.
We didn't know who did.
Okay, that's fine. Then he's a reporter. Take it for that. National Enquirer's a reporter.
No, but that's how Watergate got out. That's how we found out that Richard Nixon was a crook, because there were sources who couldn't give their names because they had to protect their jobs. That's how stories get out there. That's how reporting on stories.
You and I just both jumped on Deep Throat all at the same time, and not the porn movie. But here's the thing, regardless of how many people was in the house, honestly and truthfully, in a lot of the major stories that have come up, regardless of what company it was, Dave has done the best, most factual reporting on what actually happened. He's had a tremendous background on not only the bios of guys that have passed away.
Corny. Let me pick one subject. One subject.
All right.
Montreal, that was Montreal, hang on. You've read all the stuff that he's had to say about Montreal. Do you feel he reported that factually from the viewpoint of where you and I sat in Vince's house and what we dealt with all week long and everything that went down? Do you feel that he handled that fairly and accurately? Or did he take a side?
I don't think that he or anyone else could adequately express the frustration that you and I had to go through listening to those two fucking multimillionaires.
Do you feel he took a side and only reported one side, or do you feel that he did that fairly?
I was still answering the question, counselor. I don't think that anybody could adequately impart the frustration and aggravation that we felt because we were there, but I think that he reported the happenings and the facts of the matter fairly well, and I think he took Brett's side a little bit more but at the same time, since Sean was such a fucking uncircumcised prick, I wasn't really bothered by that. But he was a prick, but he was our prick, so we were trying to at least keep our prick, but he
was our prick.
Yeah, but once again,
But he didn't. He didn't.
sympathetically, I was on that side too, because I wouldn't have put the little cocksucker over either, to be quite honest with you. But since they were all making more money than I was about to make in the next 5 or 10 years, I was really just tired of dealing with.
So I get what Bruce is trying to say, but what advantage would it be to put Shawn Michaels' full story out there, or to even side with Shawn Michaels when you look at the Observer and leading up to Montreal, the ongoing problems that Shawn has had with drugs and everything else over the years and shit, like that shit isn't going to help his case. It certainly didn't help his case afterwards. So what does that actually mean? And at the end of the day, I think people want to hear Bret's side because Bret was the one who got fucked. Like, you know what I mean? Like Bret was the one who got fucked, and people wanted to know why. I think that right there trumps how many pills that Shawn took to lead him into the situation that he felt. I mean, shit, who gives a fuck at the end of the day? You know what I'm saying? And don't be wrong, as a reporter, you're supposed to tell the story. He didn't sit there and bury Shawn, but I think he put in enough to tell Bret's story, because you can't tell Bret's story without Shawn. You need that. Just like Shawn can't tell his story without Bret at the end of the day. So who got screwed? And even if he's talking about people up in the office and all the back scene shit or the behind the scenes shit or whatever, dude, there are still discrepancies on what happened when Vince, Shane, oh wow, I've heard that story so many times, I don't even know who was actually in there. Right after the match, when Bret was in the locker room, Bret's getting ready to take a shower. As you guys have heard the sound bites from Wrestling with Shadows, you can hear Shawn in the locker room saying, I swear to God, I didn't know jack shit. I swear to God, on everything, I didn't know nothing about nothing, man. I thought we were going to go what the original plan was. It was a lie. We know that. But when Vince went in there to confront Bret was like, hey, I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to take a shower. Don't be here when I get back. I've heard multiple stories. I heard that it was Vince, Shane, Sergeant Slaughter, Gerald Briscoe, and then that was it. But then I've heard stories that Pat Patterson was in there. I heard that Bruce Prichard was allegedly in there. I heard that oh shit, who was there that allegedly that wasn't Shane? I don't know. I don't remember who that last person was. But like I've heard like 3 different stories with 3 different people in there. At the time when eventually Bret ended up hitting Vince. But in each one of those stories though, each one of them said Vince sat there and took it like a man. He stood there and he took the hit. He didn't flinch. He didn't do anything. When Bret was like, hey, you don't move, I'm knocking the fuck out, Vince is like, I'm not going nowhere. And so Bret was like, all right then, and he wailed into him. And Vince didn't bitch or complain or nothing. They picked his ass up and he walked himself out of there. So at least that right there is accurate across all stories, but there's plenty of stories out there that say on who was actually in there when it happened and who wasn't. You know what I mean? So you're always going to have discrepancies. It's just the make of the business. It's part of being a good journalist. You have to kind of discern what seems feasible and what doesn't when you don't have all the facts or people aren't telling you everything. And there are people who can't tell you everything because all of that stuff is, I wouldn't say classified, but that stuff can't come out. Like, you know what I'm saying? People can't talk about it yet again. So what do you want, Bruce? Like, you even said that that the numbers and everything wasn't made available until later on. So whoever it was that gave whoever the journalist was those figures, either A, they were a former employee or they're a current employee who can't go ahead and can't give away their position. So if they fudge a number or two, you know what I'm saying, just to protect themselves, I mean, what more do you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, what more do you want? And keep in mind, outside of your hardcore wrestling fan doesn't give a shit about numbers like that. You know what I'm saying? They want to get the story or they want to get the drama about the wrestlers that they're invested in. When you talk about numbers and whatnot, no one's going to give a fuck about that outside of people that are in the business. Right? And if those numbers weren't made available, then who's to say what about what?
The whole goddamn thing, as you'll recall, I've mentioned on several occasions.
Okay. Well, my point is that there were so many things that we knew on the other side that we dealt with that weren't shared to him by whoever it is that he got his information from, that you sit back and go, well, that's not exactly the case. No one was ever in the position. I'm simply sharing that from another viewpoint of how things affected me and what I was a part of and what I did do. It's things like, well, no, that's not true. Well, no, fuck you. It is true because I was there. I was a part of it. I did it. Now, if there were only 3 people in the room, then one of those 3 people either said something or somebody else said something, but only though, you only know what you know. And if someone wasn't there and someone wasn't a witness to it, then they don't know. They're getting hearsay and they're getting the story from whoever wants to tell their story and spin it their way.
That's true.
So if you got 3 people in the room who all witnessed the exact same situation, you got 3 people who will sit there and tell you 3 different stories, or they'll in 3 different stories that they interpreted the way that they saw it. So what do you do then? I'm being honest about it, and you can't. And I wouldn't call any one of those 3 people, hypothetically speaking, of course, liars. You have 3 people who are looking at a situation. Each one of them are going to interpret it the same way, or are going to see it all the exact same way, but they're going to interpret it differently. So aspects of their story is going to coincide. It's going to line up, but then you're going to have small details that aren't, because people are by nature going to inject their own feeling or how they observe the situation into their statement or into the lore, if you will. That's just kind of natural, to be honest. And so now that I've said that, Bruce is like, well, you guys say this, I said this happened, you're saying that I'm wrong, I say fuck you, I was there. Okay, fair enough. But then you have 2 other people that were in that room with you, and their stories, some of the details line up and some of it swerves a little bit. Should I discount all 3 of you then? Or do I take all 3 of your stories and then I make the decision on my own on what I want to believe? At the end of the day, do you read everything that the newspaper tells you? Do you read everything you fucking see on Twitter? Do you read everything that you see on online media in general? No, you read it, you observe what makes sense to you, and you move the fuck on at the end of the day. And that's what anybody else is going to do. You take what you take and you move on. The fucking, some of the wild shit that came out about what's his name? What is his name? Damn. Hold on a second. Give me a second. John Jones. You know how much shit that came out that used to come out about John Jones until it actually came out? Like all the shit about the drug use and all the bullshit like that he got accused of, and people brushed that shit off and no one gave a fuck, right? Because, hey, he put up a good fight, or he was putting up great fights, so no one cared. Until the people who kept getting shitted on for reporting it, you know what I'm saying, kept at it, and people really started to look into it, and then it was like, oh wow, he really has been doing that. Oh shit, he's been really doing that for a long time. Shit, GSP, George St. Pierre, he got accused of that shit too when he was going up against what was that kid's name? BJ Penn. He's not a kid. I think BJ Penn's older than I am, but you know what I mean. When he was going up against BJ Penn and shit, and they accused GSP of not cheating, but of some underhanded shit or whatever. And eventually, most of it came out to be true for the most part. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you take in what you take in, and then you move on. At the end of the day, are we all going to go out here and try to turn this shit into deep throat? Are we looking for the WWF/WWE files to find out what's real and what's not? If people took a really close look, allegedly, if people took a really close look at the books for the WWF/WWE going back to, I don't know, 2000, somewhere from 2004, no, sorry, 96 to like 2003, 2004, they say there'd be all kinds of financial issues that may come up out of that if anybody was to look at those books. No one's going to. That's just a rumor that's been flashing around. The thing is if 1 or 2 people, is a rumor still a rumor if it doesn't die? Like, you know what I'm saying? Which is obviously a It's obviously a quote off of The Unusual Suspects, but it holds some merit. You know what I mean? Like, people say Vince has been stealing from his company, allegedly, for years. I mean, shit, that's how he started Titan Entertainment. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? He didn't have the money, so he had to take company money to start it. Some of the most successful businessmen in the world have stolen from their own companies. How do you think people get wealthy? You know what I'm saying? Not everybody plays the game clean. And shit, investors get fucked all the time. Eventually they get it back. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, they had the lube up too. I don't know. But the point being, ladies and gentlemen, is there's multiple sides to a story at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, you put 3 people in a room and you give them a story, and and you tell them to leave after they've heard the story, to leave the room and tell you what that story is. I guarantee you each one of them are going to tell that story slightly different from the guy before them or the lady before them or whoever before them or after them. It's just human nature. So we're fighting over really, really small shit. And though I understand what Bruce is trying to say, where people take that information and run with it, well, that's why you have people who conversate about it. That's why you have people make debates. That's why videos like this are great, that the comment sections are open, because then you have people go in and clear this stuff up all the time. You know what I mean? Like, that's a thing. You know what I mean? Let me give you a really good example. There's a video that I have coming up that's going to be, it's Vince McMahon on Howard Stern, right? This is way back. And he was talking about what it's like to be a billionaire and so on and so forth, and, you know, and everything with the WWF and whatever. What I didn't know, but I had heard rumors though, but I didn't know for sure, that when that interview happened, the next day Vince bought WCW. He bought their assets, I should say. And then by proxy, they had to give him everything else. I didn't know that, but that was a rumor that people had said for the longest. People allegedly say when he had done that interview, he already owned WCW. He already owned it. I mean, it was just announced the next day, or whatever the case may be. So, yet again, is a detail like that really important? Or is it super important that if it takes a little while for people to kind of put the story together, that it makes a difference to anybody in the long run? And yet again, how many people really care about it to that extent? I'm not saying that you shouldn't be diligent. I'm just saying that people generally will genuinely only work with what they're given. So I'm not saying that, you know, people have a right to come out here and just report whatever. What I'm saying is that people genuinely work with what they have, right? And as time goes on, some people are willing to retract, or some people are willing to incorporate that in moving forward, and some people aren't.
That Bruce goes to the argument though about this year's WrestleMania. You weren't there, so for you to say that Dave's reporting, and for him,
you're right. And I preface this with, I said I was getting secondhand information because I don't read the stuff. I was simply commenting on what somebody came to me and asked me my opinion and said, this was said. What do you think of this? I said, I think it's silly. I think it's silly if WWE does press release. I said, you know, what does it matter? And then they jumped all over saying I called him a liar. Didn't call him a liar. I said I know on different times that he has reported just completely wrong facts from personal experience. So anything that he says is like, okay, I don't care.
Bruce,
as far as Montreal, wait a minute. As far as Montreal, we could easily hear the entire real story just by listening to fucking Russo, because he came up with the whole thing and even gave fucking Sean the finish. So there you go.
There's another viewpoint.
But nobody believes him because he has a history of being full of fucking shit. Go ahead, Brian. What do you want to say?
A few more things on this, Jimmy,
if I may.
But
even with that being said, people still defend him. And Vince Russo's been caught in all kinds of lies, and yet people still defend him. So how much credibility does he have? Jesus Christ. Even Bruce Prichard has, I wouldn't say praised him, but he's given him credit over the years. But why? He's a known liar. Has Vince Russo lied about every goddamn thing he said? No. Has he lied about a lot of shit? Yeah. How much credibility does he have then? And how does that make you look if you still defend him? Well, if Bruce Prichard, I should say, has defended him on certain things. You know what I mean? Like, you have to, you got to take certain stuff like that into account, or really you don't. If you don't, you gotta get it. If you don't care, you don't care.
Bruce, do you feel that professional wrestling should have a media that covers it beyond just reporting what a press release from World Wrestling Entertainment puts out?
Oh, sure. And that's fine. It's America. They can report whatever they want. I just feel that it's also someone else's right to dispute that if it needs disputing.
There's disputing, but I mean, like, I'll give you an example. You brought up on your show the idea that for a brief period of time, Dave Meltzer was employed by the World Wrestling Federation to report to them information about what was happening in Japan, correct?
Yes, and he was. And he said that.
Do you remember how that story got out?
I have no idea, but he's the one that reported it.
Maybe the most heartfelt issue of the Wrestling Observer ever in 1991.
Oh my God, heartfelt. Who cares?
Well, listen to me, Bruce. It came out because the World Wrestling Federation attempted to get Dave fired from the National for reporting things they didn't like. And that's when he decided that was the time to reveal that, yes, he had been employed by them for a short period of time. Yes, they asked him to kill stories. He did once. He refused the second time. That all came out after they attempted to get him fired for reporting on things that they didn't want.
That's what he said.
That's like that fucking prick.
Why would you lie? And you said in when you were okay. So Brian went ahead and listed off all those things that led to Dave having to come out publicly that he used to work for the WWF/WWE. Bruce said at the beginning of this that he's like, yes, he did work for the WWE, that is true, or WWF /WWE. He did work for us, that is true. He even said it himself. Okay, cool. Do you know how that story came out? I don't give a shit. Or he didn't say that, my bad. He said, I don't care. I don't care. So why are you so quick to dismiss something that you won't even give it a little, you won't even give up a little bit of your time to even look into to see what's what? So yeah, you can acknowledge that he worked for the WWF/WWE, but you wouldn't take a moment, you know what I'm saying, to read a couple of paragraphs on how and why that all came public? Is that not important to some degree? If we're going to go ahead and facilitate all this into a form of an argument, right? That is a thing, isn't it? Yet again, this is one of the things that kind of rubs people a certain type of way with Bruce. Bruce is extremely entertaining, but he can be very fucking dismissive, and that shit can get very fucking annoying. I don't know if I'd say it gets annoying. It's not annoying. I don't think it's annoying. It's funny, but it's also, it's like, Jesus Christ, Bruce, you want me to give you the time of day, but you wouldn't give me the time of day. Like, that just seems... It's a give and take, man. I've met people from Texas. Not all of them are like this. Hell, that's what happens. Maybe that's what happens when you're up in Connecticut too long. I don't know.
Ford says Frank DeFord says that too. Frank DeFord's one of the most.
And Frank DeFord doesn't have a lot of credibility with me either. But
why doesn't Frank DeFord
or Phil Mushnick?
Well, I'm not talking about Phil Mushnick. I'm talking about Frank DeFord, one of the most celebrated sports journalists in American history. Why doesn't he have credibility?
Yeah, there's a difference between Phil Mushnick and Frank DeFord, for fuck's sake. Now, come on. And also, do
you know Frank?
I don't know him personally. No.
Okay, I do.
Why doesn't he have credibility with you?
Because I know how he writes stuff. I like Frank, but it's just like, yeah.
Well, but you know that Vince...
And by the way, Dave Meltzer...
I'm just out of this show.
I'm sorry, Jim. But Dave Meltzer, you say you don't believe that's true. Dave Meltzer printed in the Observer verbatim the letters that the World Wrestling Federation sent to Frank DeFord to try to get him fired.
Okay.
It's pretty hard to dispute that.
Okay.
So again...
Did I dispute that?
You did. You said that you didn't think that happened. You said you didn't.
I never said I didn't think that happened. I never said that.
Gentlemen, and I didn't even actually know.
But I didn't say that.
So you agree
that's the thing.
So you agree the World
I said I don't think Frank DeFord. He doesn't have a lot of credibility with me. That's all I said.
So you agree the World Wrestling Federation tried to get Dave Meltzer fired from his job because he was reporting things they didn't want him to report.
I don't agree with that because I haven't seen what you're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I just said. You said you didn't agree with that the letters were printed verbatim in the Observer.
I'm lost.
No, you're not lost. You're not lost. You lost. That's what happened. That's what happened. Jesus Christ, Bruce, just admit that you didn't read it. You don't care to read it. You don't give a shit. You don't like the person. Because how the fuck do you like someone who doesn't have any credibility with you? Would you associate yourself, or would you call someone a friend and invite them in your home if they didn't have any credibility with you? What sense does that make? How the fuck do you like someone who has no credibility, or that you feel has no credibility with you? What sense does that make? Honestly, what the fuck sense does that make? Alright, man. Woo, shit! And see, this, ladies and gentlemen, is just what happens in general human interaction. You have people who want to believe what they want to believe in the story, and they don't want to hear nothing else. And that's kind of how Bruce is. He's not like this all the time, at least from a lot of the interviews and some of his show that I've watched. Haven't watched as much as I should, but he's not like this all the time. I don't know how Comrade deals with it, but he's not like this all the time. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I guess
I'm completely lost. My point is there's two sides, and if there's three people, there's three sides, and it doesn't make any of them right or wrong. So my point was simply, when you're reading something, consider the source.
I've just completely lost.
Y'all are having a hell of a time over there.
I've lost control of this whole thing. All I'm saying is that Vince has been known, especially when he was the multimillionaire, to do some predatory business practices. There's things that he's done that then he's turned around and accused Ted Turner of, et cetera, et cetera. We've all walked down that path in the past. But I'm just saying, I think that Dave Meltzer...
Him and Vince and Vern Gagne have accused each other of doing shit that they both did. As well as others. Jesus Christ.
And once again, we can agree to disagree on personalities like we did with Jared Jarrett, who also, in full disclosure, actually his mother started me in the business, but same fucking thing. And I'm a big Memphis wrestling fan, and obviously...
So it wasn't him, it was his mother. Okay.
Well, no, okay. He started me, but
I was gonna give him credit for at least one decent thing, but then it was Christine. So
for heaven's sake, he put me in the business, but his mother actually let me start hanging around. And I'm a bigger Memphis wrestling fan than I would ever be a WWF wrestling fan, to be quite honest with you, because I liked that product. Whereas, and I had the misguided effort of trying to think that I could somehow make Vince do wrestling when I came up there, when nobody else had. I thought that lasted about 6 weeks, as you'll recall. But with Meltzer, I'm sorry. But while there may have been things that he has written that other people subjectively, based on their experience, could say, well, I don't necessarily agree with that. In most cases, in the vast majority of cases, factually, he has reported the events pretty much as they occurred. And
of course, he's been told they occurred.
And that's reporting. I mean, it goes back to...
Okay. I'm not arguing with you about that.
I hadn't put a period on it yet, and I think that he has done a much better job than anybody else in that field, especially the Kellers and the other of his ilk of the world. And so I agree with Bruce about 95% of the people in those positions and the websites that just repeat and repeat and repeat things that other people have told them. But whereas Mike Johnson, I know, is very conscientious, and he has had the advantage of being in the modern age where computers and things were more open. So he hasn't taken quite as much guff as Dave has, because Dave was out there reporting things in the 80s and 90s when the information was not as readily accessible. And I think he did a better job than anybody else during that time period of being factual. And obviously nobody's 100% perfect. So for heaven's sake, before that we have to goddamn separate you two, boys.
No,
did Conrad prepare this guy or what?
I know more than him. But give me a break.
Don't make me pull this car. I will pull this car over and nobody's getting ice cream. I'm telling you.
I better get my goddamn Dairy Queen. I better be getting my Blizzard. Oh shit! Oh god, that was fucking great. All right, thank you very much to Bruce Prichard, Brian Lass, and obviously Jim Cornette for that. Ladies and gentlemen, give me a second to square up, and I'll give you guys final thoughts, and I'll let you guys go on the rest of your Sunday. I'll see you guys in just a second. I'm a big fan of Jim Cornette, man, but don't stand between me and my Dairy Queen, bro. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, very spirited argument to discussion, I should say. Bruce has his points. It's a bit dismissive, though. He knows how journalism works. I feel like he's just trying to get under the Brian skin. Brian definitely held his ground. Good shit. Good shit to Brian. And Jim was just absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious trying to hold it all down. Oh, great stuff, and big ups to all three of those gentlemen. Yet again, at the end of the day, that is reporting. At the end of the day, you get whatever information that you can, and you try to sort it out as best as you can, and then you try to present it in a way where you're basically trying to put as much information out there as possible for the people who want to go out and further research it. Great, go ahead and do it. And for those who are happy with what they see there, until they hear otherwise, they're happy, then they're kind of content with that. That's why people do follow-up pieces and so on and so forth. That's why there's been so many different stories written about, for example, Montreal, as well as other things. It is what it is. But yet again, it's hard for me to understand how you can like someone and not think they have any credibility. That seems strange to me. Like, let me give you an example. Super Crazy and Jay. You know what I'm saying? That's like me saying, you know what? I enjoy talking to those guys. I enjoy speaking to them about wrestling, sports, whatever the case may be, and whatnot. Great dudes, stand-up guys, got all the love in the world for them. But they don't got no credibility in anything that they say, though. That makes no sense to me. Why am I associating with you if you have no fucking credibility? Like, if you have no fucking credibility, with me. If you have no credibility with me, that means I don't trust you. And that's me kind of saying that you're a liar as well. And I don't hang out with liars. No one should. So what's the point of all that? That just seems weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we may not agree on certain things, but us not agreeing and then you not having credibility with me are two separate things, is it not? So, I don't know what that's all about. But I swear, though, too, Bruce is fucking a troll. I feel like he does that shit on purpose just to get under people's skin. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. If you guys have any insight on any of that, leave it down below. I think that, like I said, some writers are whatever, and I think some writers deserve something. I think Dave has a lot of faults, but I don't think in his writing or in his journalism per se, or at least not all of it, is something that you should be bashing him over. But yet again, that's all down to personal opinion, and that's what this all really comes down to, or becomes when it becomes full circle, or when it goes full circle. But make of it what you will. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. And like I said, I'll see you guys next Sunday, if all works out. And hopefully we have another story that's somewhat interesting to you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Getting Over versus Being Put Over. And catch you guys later. Thank you, fuck you, bye, bacon.